What happens when absolute power meets a broken mind? Caligula, the emperor who turned Rome into his personal theater of madness. From executing guests at dinner to waging war on the sea, his reign defied logic and terrified history. These are the 7 most disturbing atrocities of Emperor Caligula, a descent into the darkest corners of imperial Rome. Let's begin. 1. The Dinner of Death. Imagine being invited to a lavish imperial banquet. The wine flows, the music plays, and suddenly, Caligula points to a senator and has him executed on the spot. No trial, no explanation, just death. And then, he calmly resumes eating, as if nothing had happened. For Caligula, these weren't punishments, they were performances, power games played in public, where terror was always on the menu. According to Suetonius, the Roman historian, no one, not senators nor nobles, was ever safe at his table. He even boasted that he could kill anyone, anytime, and make it look like justice. But the horror didn't end at the dinner table. It reached the ocean. 2. The War Against Neptune. In what might be the most bizarre military order in Roman history, Caligula marched his legions to the coast of Gaul, not to face an army, but the sea. He lined up his soldiers before the waves and commanded them to attack the ocean. They slashed at the surf with swords and spears, collecting seashells afterward as spoils of war. These shells were later paraded through Rome as trophies from a campaign against Neptune, the god of the sea. Was it satire? Insanity? Symbolism? No one knows for sure. But one thing is certain. The emperor no longer lived in the same reality as his people. And if he could wage war against the sea, he could also govern Rome with a horse. 3. The Consul Horse. Meet Incitatus, Caligula's favorite horse. Not only was this animal given a marble stable, golden feed buckets, and a team of servants, Caligula planned to make him a Roman consul, one of the highest political offices in the empire. He dressed Incitatus in jeweled harnesses and reportedly invited him to dinner parties. Many historians believe this wasn't madness, but mockery. A message to the Senate. You are so useless, a horse could replace you. And in Rome, where symbolism was everything, that insult hit harder than any blade. His madness had no limits, and neither did his pleasures. 4. The Floating Palaces of Lust. Caligula didn't just abuse power on land, he built 2 massive ships on Lake Nemi, floating palaces of marble, columns, gardens, and golden statues. These were not simple pleasure boats, they were temples of excess. Here, surrounded by music, wine, and slaves, the emperor indulged in unrestrained orgies and rituals. Modern archaeology has confirmed their existence, proving that Caligula's hedonistic empire wasn't just a myth. It was a floating reality of imperial debauchery. And every feast was a reminder he could do anything, to anyone, at any time. But he didn't just challenge Rome, he dared to provoke the gods of other lands. 5. The Statue in the Temple of Jerusalem. After a mysterious illness, Caligula didn't just recover, he transcended, or so he believed. He returned not as emperor, but as a self-declared living god. Statues of Roman deities were beheaded, their faces replaced with his own. Temples once devoted to Jupiter or Mars became altars to him. He dressed in flowing golden robes, demanded incense offerings, and referred to himself as immortal. But perhaps the most dangerous of his divine delusions came in Judea. Caligula ordered a giant statue of himself to be placed in the inner sanctuary of the temple in Jerusalem, one of the most sacred spaces in all Judaism, where no image was allowed under religious law. His command threatened to spark a full-scale revolt across the province. Only the desperate intervention of Herod Agrippa I, a trusted ally and friend, convinced him to cancel the order. It was one of the very few times Caligula ever backed down, but the message was clear. He didn't just want obedience, he wanted worship. In Caligula's Rome, no one was untouchable, not even love. 6. Theft of honor. Wives taken by force. Caligula didn't just rule with terror, he ruled with desire. According to ancient sources, he would attend weddings and banquets across Rome, not to celebrate, but to hunt. If he found a woman attractive, he would take her, immediately. Sometimes right from her husband's side, even in front of the entire crowd. He didn't ask, he ordered, and no one could object. One of the most infamous cases involved Lolia Paulina, the wife of Governor Memmius Regulus. Suetonius, a Roman historian and writer, recounts in the lives of the 12 Caesars that Caligula, captivated by her beauty and wealth, forced her to divorce her husband so she could become his temporary wife. He kept her only briefly, likely just days or weeks, and then either returned her to her former husband or discarded her completely. It was a brutal display of absolute power, where even the most sacred bonds were meaningless if the emperor desired something or someone. Another night, he vanished with a senator's wife, only to return and declare her his new bride, humiliating the husband on the spot. For Caligula, love wasn't sacred. It was power. Consent didn't exist. Worse yet, he often paraded these women back in public, mocking their families, asserting dominance, and reminding Rome no one's home was safe from the emperor's lust. Behind closed doors, Rome's elite lived prisoners of his desires, and even the gods of bloodsport bowed before his cruelty. 7. Arena of cruelty. Where other emperors watched gladiator games, Caligula manipulated them. He chose who fought, who lived, who died. If bored, he'd point at a guest and order them thrown into the arena. In one chilling event, he fought a gladiator himself. The man had a wooden sword while Caligula used a real dagger. When the fighter surrendered, Caligula killed him anyway and paraded like a victor. This wasn't entertainment. It was psychological warfare in public view. And when blood became a spectacle, Rome was already bleeding from within. Caligula's reign lasted just 4 years, but his legacy is burned into history like a nightmare that never ends. He blurred the line between man and monster until Rome could take no more. In 41 AD, he was assassinated by his own guards, but his ghost still lingers, not in temples, but in every warning about power with no limits. Because when a man with trauma and absolute control believes he is a god, the world becomes his twisted theater. Which atrocity do you find the most disturbing? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe to uncover more hidden fragments of history's darkest corners. New episodes every week. Don't miss the truth beneath the ruins.